Today's episode of In the Chute, we talk about preferred styles for stirrups.
There's really only just a couple that I use, either Visalia or Oxbow.
I'm particularly picky about mine.
Yes, you are.
I have no
Yeah.
idea what they are.
She likes Visalia. She likes to put her foot down and have some substantial.
I don't like the
platform.
rounded
That's
bottom.
Oxbow.
That's the Oxbows. I personally don't like those either. To get a good purchase on it, I feel like you have to really sit your heel into it, and I don't like that. I like having a stirrup in the balls of my feet because I've had more than one horse lay down on me, and it freaks me out because I want my feet out as quickly as possible. And if they're in an oxbow, they're a little harder to do. You have to lift them up and pull them out, and I'm not willing to do it.
Well, and really that Oxbow is designed to stay on your foot and to put that weight down, just like you're talking about, particularly when a horse is busting in two with you and you're trying to stay in a saddle. I like to go prior to busting in two and not have them.
I'll say, listen, if you're a real horseman like me, you wouldn't have that problem. But here we are.
There you go. So I mean, but if you have those jammed up in your, the right under the counter of your boot in front of your heel, and you got any time in the saddle at all, my feet will go to sleep.
Yeah.
So because I'm riding right on the shank of my boot, which is putting pressure on my foot, right in the arch, and so my feet will tend to start to go to sleep, and that's kind of the reason why. I mean, I'll ride them. I just really prefer a Visalia, and there's wide Visalias. You can have them that they're 4 inches wide or narrow. I kind of like about a 2.5 inch, so that I'm kind of really the best of both worlds there. I've got a flatter surface that I can get my foot on there, but it's not so much that it's hard to get out, because something with a 4-inch wide Visalia
got a lot of real estate.
Yeah, you're stepping on a lot of tread there, and you can be hard to shed those as well. Wintertime, a big, large stirrup, if you've got a set of overshoes on, even overshoes will take up a lot of space in that stirrup. If you're using some kind of a insulated boot, then you've got a lot of room in there that you don't want to have that stirrup tight on. But God, I don't want to have a couple of stirrups hanging there the size of 5-gallon buckets either. I mean, I hate that. Yeah. So
there's also ones
right in the wintertime with just boots and overshoes, and just let my feet get cold, because I want to be able to clear that stirrup.
There's also stirrups, like I think Zorro is like a famous one, where they've got the front of it covered with leather, so if you stick your toe through it, it actually stops on the leather, and it's more or less it's built to protect you from like brush or tall grass and stuff like that.
Yeah, isn't that a southwestern style?
Well, yeah, it's like you use tapaderos.
Tapaderos, that's what I was thinking.
But it's a cover on the front that exactly does that. But if depending on the size or type of boot you have, you may not be able to get your, because I've ridden some that weren't mine and couldn't quite get my foot all the way in the stirrup either, because that held that back, or would crush down, and I never cared for those. Just didn't. I mean, they got to be handy and brush. I would absolutely say, going through a bunch of willows that you're trying to slog through and it's catching your boot. I've twisted my knee doing that, where you're catching something and turning it sideways. That hurt. Where it barks it a little bit, but not that they would completely stop that, but it would sure help.
Well, and there's other stirrups too, where some of our older stuff, I think on Braden's, I think the saddle he has that has the ZV on there, it's got wood with aluminum edging on the stirrup itself. Then there's also others like your Keystone that I would imagine the stirrup itself is wood, but it's finished with leather all the way around it. So it's like you're putting your foot on leather. I don't know if we've ever had a fully metal, steel, aluminum, tin, whatever it might be, stirrup. I don't know if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, your grandpa made several sets of stirrups, and he made some oxbows that were basically very heavy because you were putting on a training saddle so it would hold those stirrup leathers down, made basically out of pipe, and they're about an inch wide, and then he covered them with rawhide. And
and those are oxbow style too, right?
Those are an oxbow style, but
I remember those because those are super heavy, and those are the ones I've used before.
Yeah, and then he also took those and then modified them, and then made them so that they were
there's a shocker,
that they were flat across the bottom. They weren't a true oxbow, so they come down, and then he just flattened them, but they're still narrow and heavy, and in the wintertime they're cold. That heat does leave your body in favor of something that's colder. So even through boots.
With all those variations, my question would be, I know mom doesn't ride much, so that's why I'm mostly talking to dad on this one. What would be your preferred option with those different styles, whether it be, the metal with the tin edging,
I've ridden a lot of miles in one like that. Didn't seem to make much difference. It was to me, it's the biggest thing is the width of that stirrup, and
I agree.
whether I can get in and whether I can get the weight of my foot, not right next to my heel, but just a little bit further forward in front of the shank of my boot, so that I can put some weight on there. And those I think altogether they're probably 2.5 inches wide, maybe, and they're leather covered. I like leather. I just like the feel. It's warm or warmer. Wood is fine. There's a danger that if a horse falls, they can break a stirrup. I've seen broke stirrups, or you hit something, you can break a stirrup.
I think you did that once.
Yeah, we've done it. So broken a lot a things.
Yeah, you have.
But
internally and externally.
Yes, but I just prefer something that's. I like a lighter stirrup. The wood provides some lightness to it when you don't have that metal in there, which is fine, especially on a horse that you've worked a lot, and it's pretty safe. No horse is completely safe. Then you can say, well, this horse has never done anything, and it probably hasn't, but that old argument. But when you're training horses, that's why your grandpa made those oxbows the way he did. They were heavy, and they weren't gonna break. But if you fell with them, they were gonna turn. So you could, kind of crush your foot one way too. They're large enough that you're going to get out of them. And that was a nice issue where they would hang and you could pick your feet up and just completely leave those stirrups.
See, and I think that's why I dislike the wood ones with the like tin or aluminum edging to them, because to an extent they're not heavy enough and they kind of come up. So you have to kind of pick your feet up to set in it and push it down, versus the ones that you're talking about, like on the Keystone or even those heavy oxbows that grandpa made. Like the fact that you can get on a brand new horse that you're putting your leg over on the first time, and where your leg needs to go, and you can just slip your toe in nice and easy and slow, versus trying to like finagle reaching down slowly and setting your foot into it. Like there's more complications and concerns there versus just being able to slip your foot in. That's why I like, especially the Keystones, the one you're talking about, are nice and heavy. You can just put your foot in and hold. And I also like the leather because I feel like my sole to my boot can get more purchase on it a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe that's just more of a mental thing. I don't know, but it sure feels like it.
Yeah, I've been in the spot where you're throwing that leg over a horse the first time, and I'm not throwing it over. I'm easing over, setting down, and then I'm searching for that stirrup.
Right.
And, you've done a lot of groundwork, but still, now it's a whole different story when you're on that horse's back and you're using your foot and you're trying to find that stirrup and you're tapping it, and it's like 3 blind mice trying to find their way home into the cheese tunnel and hoping it's okay. Now I got that. I'm set. I got that stirrup secure. And I'm good to go. So
that's a segue to like horse training in general. People might be like, well, why don't you just look down? I'm like, no, I think I'd rather watch the horse's head. I'd like to see how their reactions is trying to look and find this thing. First off, not only because of that, because that's a good indicator is the horse's head, but also what normally happens when you look at something, you tend to lean that way, and then they start to feel that, and it's not it oftentimes is not a good idea.
No, you're right. I'm watching them, I'm feeling them, and I'm feeling their body underneath me. The last thing I need to do is take my attention away from that to find a stirrup. That stirrup's there somewhere. I'll marry up to it eventually.
I was gonna say, like, I think that's just a thing of growing up learning with the younger horses, more untrained horses than actually trained. Because even my horse, before I stopped riding him, even then I still got used to. It took me a second to go, oh yeah, you know what? It's okay. You can lean over and grab that thing and put it
Yeah.
on your foot. I'm always watching their head before I do that because I'm like, I don't know what might happen. They might freak out on me for some reason.
Well, and regardless of what stirrup you're using, I want those stirrup leathers turned so that when that saddle's sitting there on a horse's back with nothing on them, those stirrups are perpendicular to that horse's side. I don't
Yeah.
need to reach down and turn or try to find it and reach in and stick my foot in, and then I got it.
Yeah,
I
dig your
wanna
toe
just
into
be able
their
to put it
side
in.
and then push it forward
Right.
to face forward. Yeah.
Yep. We've got all of our saddles set so that they'll do that, and it takes a little bit of training with some of them, but you can get that. You can train your saddle too.
Yeah. And I'm sure mom would say her stirrups are
Short, very, very short.
well, no, I was gonna say
Was that out loud?
the gas and the brake pedals and the side by side are her favorite stirrups, right?
Probably.
Yeah.
I like getting on a horse, but my
Your
knees hurt so
yeah.
bad that it's like if I
Yeah.
go riding for an hour, then I'm hurting for a week and it's not worth it.
It's not worth
We've
it.
never
Yeah.
ever been able to get her to ride enough to overcome that, just to even get used to it. Because,
Yeah.
if you don't ride for a month or two in the wintertime and then you get on, yeah, or you're riding sporadically, you feel it in your knees, especially on
Sure.
a long ride, so that tends to make the difference there too.
All right. Well,
It's
that's
not comfortable. You're not going to do it.
It's true. I like to
that's
pet them and
well,
love on them.
I mean, everybody
Give 'em
loves the
kisses.
horses. Yeah.
So that all works.
Yeah. Even the babies.
Even the babies.
Yeah. All right. That's their preferences and the reason why.